Hey there, amazing listeners. Welcome to Family, Business, and Beyond. I'm Debra Kane, and if you're a mom trying to juggle everything from diaper changes to business meetings, or someone just looking for a bit of joy and inspiration, you've found your new favorite podcast. Here, we talk about everything from launching your dream business to finding joys in family chaos, all while having a few laughs along the way. Each episode is packed with real stories, practical tips, lots of science, and a sprinkle of the unexpected to keep you hooked from start to finish. Ready to transform your life and have some fun? Let's get started. Hey everyone, welcome to the very first full-length episode of Family, Business, and Beyond. So glad you're here, and I can't wait to get started on our first full episode. So today we are going to talk about something near and dear to my heart, that is emotional intelligence. I noticed that on my Facebook page, if you've been to it, I have a whole banner that says emotional intelligence. And then I started to think, not everybody is aware of what that actually means. So what I'm going to talk about is what emotional intelligence is, how we can enhance it, and why it even matters. So before we start, let me give you a bit of history. Did you know that the concept of emotional intelligence dates back to ancient Greece? Aristotle spoke about reason and passion and the need for a balance between the two for effective functioning. That was over 2,000 years ago. So have we come a long way since then? Of course we have, but the concepts are actually still the same. We have just enhanced upon it. That's what I want for you today, is to enhance upon the skills that I'm sure you already have. What exactly is emotional intelligence? Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand and to manage your own emotions, as well as the emotions of others. Actually made up of 5 key elements. Those elements are social skills, self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and motivation. So we're going to dig into each one individually. And as for the matter of why it matters, the ultimate benefit of having a high emotional intelligence level is improved relationships, better mental health, successful career, and an overall well-being. So let's dig right into the first one that I will speak about, and that is social skills. Social skills, social awareness, I combined all together. Social skills, of course, refers to the ability to interact with others, how to manage relationships, how to build networks. And that could be for business or personal. All of these things can be for both business and personal. And some of the key components, so to speak, would be to have effective communication skills, knowing how to be good at conflict resolution, and even teamwork. And yes, that applies to your personal life as well. I mean, your family is actually a team. So we can relate this to every situation. Why is it important to have these skills? I think are obvious in some cases and some not in others. I believe we all could benefit from having better communication skills. I don't know of anybody who thinks that they are the ultimate in communication. Think about the hard conversations you've had to have. There's always something that stops you or gets in the way. Or if you're like me, you're like searching for the right word. Why can't I ever remember the word I want to use? Upping our skills in this area is definitely a benefit for us all around. And what are some of the things that you can actually do to up the skills? Well, we're going to dig deep into those later, but I'll give you a few for each one. So for social skills, you can practice active listening. And active listening is not as easy as you think. Let's say you're talking on the phone or in person, doesn't matter. You're talking to somebody who you may know a little bit or a lot, doesn't matter. Maybe they're giving you a whole long story. Maybe they're talking too long. Maybe they are talking about a subject you're not really that interested in. Or maybe they don't have good communication skills and they just are going off in every direction. What can you do in that situation to have better conversation. Active listening skills means that you are not thinking while that person is talking, you're not thinking about what you're going to say next. You're not thinking about your answer, your advice, your response. You're not thinking about what you're making for dinner. You are simply listening to what they're saying, the actual words. Now, if you're on the phone or Zoom or on the computer, it's a great idea to take notes. So long as you're still listening, take little tiny notes, like meaning a couple of words here or there, not long sentences. It's a good idea for a few reasons, because when that person stops talking, and I'm not saying you can't ever interrupt, but we're going to work on listening skills. So we're going to assume you're not interrupting at this point. So you are listening. And at the end, when it is time for you to respond, you want to respond with whatever that person was actually saying to you, not with what you thought would benefit the conversation. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but trust me on this. It's just a skill building activity to have better communication skills. The more active listener you are, the more you will both get out of the conversation. And it is definitely something to practice. Another thing you can do is to develop empathy. And we're going to talk about empathy later, but to develop an empathy for understanding the other person's perspective, putting yourself in their shoes. They're talking about something that you maybe don't agree with, and you just keep on saying to yourself, this person, maybe you're saying, this person's crazy. They don't know what they're saying. Why can't they see it, for what it is? Listen, you may be right. You may be 100% right, but it doesn't matter. What matters is if you're active listening, if you want to better your communication skills, then you are listening with the idea of what is their perspective. So they're talking. I don't agree with them. You don't have to agree with them. But I can see, once you get good at it, you can see, even in the worst scenario, why they're thinking that, where their perception is coming from. It is helpful in the long run, I promise you. And then, of course, you will improve your nonverbal communication skills. If you happen to be in person, things like body language, eye contact really matter. If you are talking to someone, just think about any time that you've talked to somebody in length and that person is doing this. You're talking, you're telling a story. They look at you and then they look away. But not just once, but a lot of times. Or even worse, they're doing this, right? They're not listening to you. They definitely don't have great communication skills. And how does that make you feel? It doesn't make you feel heard. It doesn't make you feel like you want to listen to them, does it? You want to be better at this. Be focused, okay? When you are listening to somebody talk within reason, okay? I'm not saying you can't ever glance away, but in general, be looking at the person, directly at them. Into their eyes, even better. So what does this do? Obviously, it's building a better relationship and collaboration for work or home. Okay, think about talking to your spouse, because I admit I'm guilty of this. When I'm talking to my husband or he's talking to me, I may be working on something important. He just comes in and starts talking. All right, so that is my defense. However, if I want to build my communication skills, I need to be a better listener. So maybe this is just when he has to talk. I don't know, but I have to think about his perspective. So it really helps to do that and to stop what you're doing if you can, and to look at that person. I'm not saying to let everybody walk all over you. If you can't be interrupted, you have to say, sorry, I have to finish this. I can talk in 10 minutes or something like that. But learn to do it in a way that is respectful for both parties. And then, of course, it also enhances your networking opportunities should you be at work or at a new networking event, even just meeting people. How many of us need to meet, maybe you move to a new town, a new city, and you don't know anybody. You want to meet new people. You want to enjoy your life. It's important to have good communication skills. It's just common sense, right? We don't all think about it all the time. Okay, let's move on to self-awareness. We've talked about social skills, and part of that is social awareness. Now, self-awareness, which if you know me, I talk a whole lot about self-awareness. That is what I start almost everything I coach. I start with self-awareness, but it is important. Self-awareness is, of course, the ability to recognize and understand your emotions, your strengths, your weaknesses, even your triggers, to be aware of them and know what to do about them. Of course, your emotional recognition is one thing, right? You want to know what you're thinking, not just, "Ugh, I don't know why I'm doing this." No, you want to know why you're doing that. I know why I'm doing something. When I do something out of the ordinary, I know why it is. I'm like, so frustrated. I understand why I'm frustrated, but I'm still frustrated. What do you do? That's another whole episode of what to do about that. But being aware is step one in this situation for emotional intelligence. Then you want to work on your self reflection. Self reflection is a lot of different things, and there's so many ways that you can reflect on yourself. There's long ways, there's short ways. I will link in this episode to a bunch of ways that you can do it. I even have a visualization technique that is wonderful for a lot of these skills, actually. I will link to that too because I don't want to make this episode too long. Instead of doing it with you guys here, I'll link to it. If you're interested, click on it and check it out. And there's also some benefit to having an accurate self assessment. This is not so easy to do. To self assess yourself in anything we do, some people enjoy doing it with a chart, with pen and paper, or on the computer. If you are a person that likes doing that, then I will link to it for you to do that. I don't believe that everybody needs to have a chart in front of them to self assess. If you feel the need, or if you want to check it out, go right ahead. But there's other ways that you can self assess. Also, you can ask a trusted friend. It does have to be a trusted friend who you know, we'll get into that later, someone who is going to give you real feedback, not just be a cheerleader. So, some things you can do to help this along is you can keep a journal and keep track of your emotions and behaviors. Many people love to journal, and that's great. If you're a journaling guru, then by all means, add this to it. It's a great way to look back and see where you were off, where you improved. It's easy to actually see if it's right there in writing. Not everybody loves to journal. So if you don't, you can ask for feedback from trusted friends. Now, here's what I'm going to say about that. You need to do a couple things. If you're going to ask for feedback, you need to first be ready for that feedback. And when I say ready, I mean be accepting of it. Feedback in and of itself should be straightforward, not cheerleading, which is the second thing that I want to caution you on. When you're choosing a person to give feedback, don't choose the friend who's going to say, "You're great, Deb. You're wonderful. I love everything you do. You're always so great." No, not the cheerleader. That's helpful. Feedback is not about being a cheerleader. Feedback is about, in a way, it's about critical or criticizing, but in a very non-confronting way, non-aggressive way. But it's an honest opinion. That's what it is. It's an honest opinion. Who can you trust to give you their honest opinion of what you are asking? If you don't know anybody, don't choose that option because the cheerleader's not going to help you. And then you can also engage in mindfulness practices, which again, there's tons of mindfulness practices. You know, I know some. I'm going to give you one here that is the easiest thing to do, whether you are into it or not. Some people are into meditation. They love to meditate. They do the whole chanting and closing their eyes and sitting across. That's great. If you're into, that's wonderful. If you are not into meditation or think you're not good at it, or for whatever reason, here's what I'm going to tell you to do. Everybody can go for a walk. Okay. Doesn't have to be special, doesn't have to be fancy. It has to be outside. So go for a walk outside. It could be in the park. It could be just in your neighborhood. I don't care. Just go for a walk outside. But here's the thing. No AirPods, no headphones, no sound in your ears at all. Nobody with you. Be by yourself. And what you're going to do on this walk without having any sound in your ears, you are going to notice what you hear along this walk. What you hear, what you see, obviously, and what you feel. That's all you're going to do for the whole time. So whether you're walking for 5 miles, 3 miles, 1 mile, I don't care. You're just going to keep noticing this over and over. what are you going to see? It's going to feel a little awkward when you first start, but as you're walking, you're going to see things. You're going to see trees and people and cars, and maybe you'll see a field if you're in the park. You're going to see different sights. And the more you do this, by the way, the more you're going to notice more and more things. Um, and what are you going to hear? You're going to obviously hear people walking by, chattering, maybe. You might hear leaves blowing. You might hear a dog barking. You might hear people playing in the field. You might hear cars going by, all kinds of things that you're going to hear, more than you could imagine probably right now. And feeling, people have a problem with feeling like, I don't know what I'm going to be feeling. What do you mean feeling? They think I mean emotional feeling. I don't. I mean physical feeling. So if you're walking, you're probably swaying your arms, right? So you are feeling your arms moving back and forth. Maybe you're going at a faster pace and your heart is beating faster. You're feeling your feet on the pavement. Maybe you're feeling the wind blowing in your face. Maybe you're feeling the sweat coming down on your chin. Whatever, you can figure it out. And if you are going for a long walk and you get stumped, you can say the same things over and over. You can think this to yourself over and over. And if you feel like you're just being redundant, then switch over to things you're grateful for. Because now you've already done the sensory stuff. It's okay now to switch over on a long walk to think about the things you're grateful for. Just remember, when you are using gratefulness, make it a real, true feeling. I don't believe in saying, I'm grateful for waking up. I'm grateful for my soft pillow. Unless you have a true gratefulness for those things, I think they are not resonating as truth within us. So make sure it's something you're truly grateful for. I mean, I can look up at the clouds and say, I am grateful for these clouds because I have a real passion for clouds. That's just who I am. You might not. So then don't say that. Make it something authentic for you. Okay, so all of this is said so that you can understand what you just did. If you follow this direction, is called a walking meditation. You guys just meditated. It's a real life scientific fact, walking meditation, and it works. And it brings awareness to us very quickly because that's all we're doing is being aware of our surroundings and of ourselves. So that is a great way to start. And even if you're a full-fledged meditator, it's still a great way to get out there in the fresh air and do your meditation. And guess what? If you do it in the morning, you're getting early morning sun, all those benefits in one. So that's a great tip. Okay. Moving on. Of course, this is going to lead to improved decision making and emotional regulation. I mean, we've been talking about self-awareness, and now you might think, how is that going to help me on my decisions? Because the more clear you are about yourself, the quicker and more clear it'll come to you of what decisions have to be made and how quickly you can make those decisions. If you're like me, I struggle with hard decisions. I used to struggle with them a lot. Now, I admit there's still occasionally a time when I take longer than I want to over a decision. But more times than not, I'm on top of it because if I'm clear with myself, it's clear to me what decision I should make. It's just, that's common sense. Okay. And of course, all this will lead to more confidence in yourself, right? In your personal and your professional life. So now we are going to move on to self-regulation, which again, self-awareness, self-regulation, right? They all overlap. All of these things overlap with each other. Self-regulation involves in managing your own emotions, your own impulses, your reactions to various situations. It's all about how you react, right? And how you can control the way you react, not the way others react. Some of the things you can do or not do, but some of the things that help out with this is stress management, impulse control, and adaptability. My favorite thing is adaptability. We talk about that a lot in mental resilience and pivoting when you need to and knowing the difference and how to adapt easily. It's all about resilience. I will dig deep into that. If not in this episode, I will in another one. One of the things you can do to help out with stress management and resilience is to practice deep breathing or meditation to manage the stress. I've already told you about walking meditation. That counts here too. Walking meditation is fine. There are a number of breathing techniques, and we're not talking about when someone says to you, take a deep breath. What do? That's not helpful. That's not helping anybody, okay? But there are breathing techniques that work wonders. My very favorite one is called physiological sigh. I will show you that one. But if you want to know more about all the different breathing techniques that I teach or believe are helpful, I will link to that in the show notes as well. Anyway, the physiological sigh is simply a big, deep inhale. Before you let it out, you take a tiny other inhale, as though, it just as though you didn't think you had any more breath to take, but you take it in anyway. It's just filling up your lungs to capacity. And then you're going to exhale through your mouth, a nice long exhale. So it looks like this. Okay, I'm going to do it one more time so you can catch it. It's a deep breath in, then another tiny one to fill up your lungs, then a long exhale. That's it. That's it, folks. Now, the physiological side has been studied, and it is a fact that for adults, even depending on your situation and the stress that you're exhibiting at that moment, even just one physiological sigh can reduce your stress level immensely. You can do it 3 times if you need to, but I'm just saying often 1 time's all you'll need. Just on a side note, if you do this with children, because it works great for them too, they don't always do it correctly the first few times. So it takes a little bit longer, but it works with them also. You just have to try a little harder to get them to understand how to do it. Once they do, though, it works for them too. Okay. This, of course, will all lead to better stress management, better resilience, of course, and an ability to stay calm under pressure. How many wouldn't want to stay calm under pressure? All right. Because I know everybody I talk to would love to have that skill. So we will definitely try some of this out. Okay, let's move on we're on number 4 already. This has gone quickly. Let's move on to empathy. We think of empathy, we think of, oh, I feel so sorry for that person. But it's more than that. Empathy is the ability to share the feelings of others. It's again about perspective, thinking about the other person's perspective. It's not just when someone's sad, I feel sad for them. What about when somebody's angry? You don't have to feel angry with them, but empathy is, they must have had a hard day. Something must have just caused them to be acting in that way. You don't have to give them a pass. It's not saying you have to excuse bad behavior. It's just saying have a perception of what they might be going through. That leads, of course, to almost the same thing would be like emotional understanding. You want to, that maybe just think, maybe that helps instead of saying perception, maybe it helps for some people to say, I wonder what they're feeling right now. There's some debate over whether that's a good idea or not to do in schools with the kids. And we've been doing that a lot lately. That's another whole episode also. If you want to know about that, put it in the comments because I definitely will be doing an episode on that. I want to know that other people want to hear about it. So if you find some interest in talking about the different things pertaining to kids or the school system, let me know. Some things you can do to enhance your empathy would be to practice active listening without interrupting. You can engage in activities that broaden your perspectives. What might those be? Things like reading diverse books that you don't normally read, right? Maybe volunteering in a place that you normally wouldn't volunteer at. These things just help to broaden your view of seeing other people's perspectives. And that could be, yes, it could be things like a homeless shelter. It could be a school in a different area. It can be a veterans hospital. I don't know. It could be anything. Know yourself first. We've worked on self-awareness. now to work on your self-regulation. You're on the way to bettering yourself, and all of that comes down to enhancing all of these skills. So on empathy, we can't just say, I feel sorry for people who are sad. You have to do more than just that. And of course, this will lead to improved relationships, improved communications, and emotional connection. Your ability to support and understand others is phenomenal, right? If you up this skill builder, you will come off much more supportive to others rather than just saying, what can I do to help? People are not going to answer you. You have to be the one to know what that person needs. Okay, we're going to move on to motivation. Motivation is the last skill builder. And motivation, when we're talking about emotional intelligence, is actually the drive to pursue your goals with energy and persistence. So there's a thing called intrinsic motivation. You can probably guess. Intrinsic motivation are things that we do from within. Extrinsic motivation, things that we do from without or from around us. In other words, if your motivation to win a race is to earn the trophy, or somebody says to you, finish this project by this deadline and you'll get a $500 bonus. Those are motivations, no doubt, but they're not intrinsic. They're things we're doing for a reward of some kind or from someone else. What you want to focus on for your emotional intelligence is intrinsic motivation, which is something you do for yourself. You're doing it to better yourself, to improve on a skill, to get better at a hobby, it could even be, to do something to grow your brain or your emotions. So even just listening to a podcast like this, you are doing something to improve yourself, to grow. That's intrinsic motivation. So it's important to make sure that you pick goals that are SMART goals. And I'm going to tell you what that means in just a second. But just know that when you're goal setting for motivation, especially, you want to be sure that you do a couple of things differently. One of those things would be to set really tiny goals that are super achievable. Things like, I'm going to add 10 minutes to my workout today. That's one goal for one day. It's achievable. It's so easy. It's one day. Or maybe a little bit more. I'm going to cook all healthy dinners this week. Just for 1 week. That's a goal, and it's achievable, and it's short. Pick little tiny, short, very achievable goals for yourself when you're starting out. That will build your momentum to do more, and before you know it, you'll be setting longer and harder goals. This also has to do with your resilience and knowing if you commit to it, you're going to do it. That's all there is to it. So that's why I say set up really tiny ones, because you want to make sure that you do it. You don't want to give yourself any excuse for not following through. One of the ways we talk about goals is by setting an acronym called SMART goals. Most of you probably heard of it. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So be sure when you're setting these goals, especially the ones, once you get past the little tiny ones and move on to longer goals, make sure that they do have all the specific SMART parts in them, okay? Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. If you want more help on what that means or how to go about this, again, just put it in the comments. Just put in goal help or something like that. I will be able to reach out to you, or you can ask a specific question and I will answer you. So once we do this, we want to identify our personal values, and we can actually align those values to our goals. If we want to align our values to our goals, how do we go about that? Start thinking about what's important to you, number one, and then what can you do to set a goal around that? Maybe it's important to you to take care of animals. Maybe you just are an animal lover. What's a goal you can set around that? You can volunteer at an animal shelter. Super simple, right? It could be something that simple or more complicated, but you get the idea. Make sure that some of your goals, not all, should be things that absolutely align with your value. That will help you to be more motivated and to do better. So this, of course, will all increase your productivity. It will increase your goal attainment, and it will enhance your sense of purpose and your direction. Almost everybody, when I first talk to them, say, I don't know where I want to go, or I know where I want to go. I don't know how to get there. So having this kind of clarity is, again, it's beneficial not only to everybody around you, but it's beneficial to you. All of these things that you're talking about, all five of these key components to emotional intelligence are helping you and helping everybody around you, everybody in your atmosphere, because it's the way you're going to act and react to them. So, having higher achievement levels and personal satisfaction is one of the grand benefits. I noted down some ways to practice emotional intelligence, which I know I gave you a few for each skill, but there's a couple that I want to say that I just noted down, and here they are. Okay, so things like accepting criticism and responsibility. That's a big deal because we've talked about accepting criticism a little bit in the feedback, right? Be ready for that. We didn't talk much about responsibility, but self regulation is all about responsibility. To say that to blame others for anything is not emotionally intelligent. Okay. It doesn't matter what the situation is. If you want to have good leadership skills, it's not just about business, it's about personal life as well. It could be about parenting, it could be about friendships, it could be about family. Leadership skills are important in all aspects of our life. And one of those skills is to take responsibility. It's not about being the boss. It's not about saying you do this and I'm right and you're wrong, or my way and no. It's not about that. Leadership skills is knowing when and how to ask questions and how to respond to those questions and how to perceive others. It's all about emotional intelligence. Okay. So take responsibility for what you know is your responsibility, and even for things you're not so sure. Let's say somebody comes to your house to do work. Okay. They are there to, let's just say they're there to paint something easy. They're there to paint your house. And you give them instructions, and then you go away and you come back and they're still painting, and that's fine. And anyway, it turns out that something is wrong. It could be anything. It could be small, it could be big. I don't care. Let's say in this case, it was that they didn't paint the trim the correct color. Okay. So is that your fault? Because you already gave them the instructions. You told them to paint the trim a certain color, and you came back and it was painted a different color. So is that their fault or your fault? So let me stop. We're not talking about fault. We're talking about responsibility. So the responsibility lies on you. Why? Because you left them with instructions and they did not follow through. So who's in charge of them following through? That would be you. You're the one who is the leader in this scenario. You're the one who gave them the instruction. You're the one, therefore, that needed to follow through. And you didn't. So it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. Okay, so that's a big deal. Okay, accepting criticism and responsibility. Moving on after making a mistake. Really important. Moving on after making a mistake is big. A lot of people get stuck there. Saying no when needed. Okay, there are times when we need to say no without even explanation. No. Sharing feelings with others, very important, because the more we share, the more we get self-awareness of ourselves. Solving problems that work for everyone. So when you're solving a problem, it's not about solving it to the benefit of yourself, about solving the problem so that it benefits all of us. Having great listening skills, we talked a lot about that, and not being judgmental of others, which I know we like to think of ourselves as non-judgmental, but there are many times when, if you really stop and give it some thought, you are judging, even if you don't mean to be, Even if you say, I didn't intend to judge, I didn't mean it that way. I know, I understand you didn't mean it that way. Doesn't mean that's not what it was. So take notice of the way you do things. Stop and pause. By the way, let me give you a tip about pausing. Maybe you're having a heated discussion, or maybe there's a debate going on, and you can feel yourself about to say something. Doesn't have to be terrible, doesn't have to be cursing. Maybe you just feel yourself about to say something a little bit abrupt, a little bit that you know is not going to come off well. Instead of just blurting it out, pause and think about it for just a few seconds. So, how many of us know how to do that? Because saying pause, it's not like there's a button that you can push. What we can do is use a motion. This is what I do. You don't have to do this. You could pick something completely different, but this is what helps me. When my kids were little, I used to do this. When they were getting loud and I was trying to talk to them, I would do this. And they knew that meant hush, stop talking, hush. When they got older, we used to do it jokingly, but we did it throughout their entire lives. But what I do now, when I want to pause, I do this to myself. I just make the motion if I'm by myself or if I'm with somebody that I feel comfortable with. I will literally make the motion. And that tells my brain, stop for a second, think about what you're saying. And then I can say it in a calmer way or use better words or reframe it altogether. No, I don't do this if I'm in a business setting, but I do think about it. If I'm thinking it, it's almost the same. Okay. So that's something you can try for yourself if you have that issue and you want to get better at it. It doesn't have to be this motion. It could be any motion for you. Maybe for you, it's just, doing this. Maybe it's putting two fingers together, something that's not even noticeable. Okay. So that's just a tip that I do that may help you. We are coming to an end here, guys, and I want to give you a little analogy, the way I like to think about emotional intelligence and all of these skills. I like to think of it like a very well-tuned orchestra where each component, each instrument is playing in perfect tune. They're all beautifully tuned and in sync. And what does it sound like? It sounds like such a beautiful harmony, right? Beautiful symphony. So for emotional intelligence, each component or instrument would be social skills, social awareness, self-regulation, empathy, motivation. When all five of those components are working in harmony, it's like we are all in sync. Our whole being is in sync. It's well balanced and it's being effective in the world in whatever we're doing. So I like to think about it that way. It helps me to remember how they're all intertwined and overlapping. So I hope that helps you. So to summarize and wrap everything up, emotional intelligence refers to what? The ability to recognize, to understand, to manage, and to utilize the emotions effectively. In today's fast-paced world where we are all interconnected, its significance is even more pronounced than ever. So here are some key reasons why. First, enhanced personal relationships. EI helps individuals comprehend their own emotions and also those of others. It helps to foster better communication and stronger relationships. It also enables empathy, allowing for deeper connections, more meaningful interactions. In the workplace, leaders with high EI actually inspire and motivate their teams rather than being the boss. They manage stress, they navigate the workplace and conflicts very effectively. It promotes collaboration. So teamwork is a thing that we all should strive for. Teamwork leads to definitely a more productive work environment, and that starts as early as possible. It leads to better mental health. I mean, that's not obvious also. Maybe it's not obvious to everybody. And I think that's where the disconnect comes. Often when we know about things and when we're pretty good at it, we think that everybody knows that. Everybody is aware and everybody is not aware. People need to actually see this in action because it's just like when you model things for your kids, when you're out there in the world doing your thing and acting a certain way with your great emotional intelligence skills, everybody around you benefit and they see it and it wears off on them. It rubs off on them just like it does on your kids. So better health for yourself and for those around you. Stress management, of course. The resilience, again, fosters big resilience, helping you to bounce back from setbacks, adapt when you have to pivot and make a change. Very important, especially in goals. I was going to mention that when we're setting goals, let's say you set a goal that you don't achieve. What do you do then? So you have two choices when you set a goal that you don't achieve. First, you can say, okay, I failed that goal, and I'll get back to that. Or you can say, that goal, I didn't meet the deadline, but I'm going to adapt to that and I'm going to pivot it. I'm going to change it and I'm going to reset that timeline to this time. Which do you think is better? A trick question. Because the answer is number one. I would much rather you say, I failed at this goal, then I'm going to reset it. Because it sounds good. Oh, I'm going to be adaptable. I'm going to be resilient and I'm going to just try again. I do want you to try again, not with the same goal. Because here's the thing. If you reset the deadline, what happens? Do you reset it once? Do you reset it twice, 3 times? How many times are you going to reset that? It's not a goal anymore if you keep resetting it. Okay, a goal means you have a deadline and that's it. There is no leeway there. What you can do, though, is say, okay, you know what? I failed that goal. That's okay. I'll tell you why it's okay. Because my good friend, I don't really know him, but I like to call everybody my friend, Mr. Dean Graziosi, likes to say, celebrate your failures. I love to say that because I truly believe that every failure leads you closer to your successes. You have to fail in order to succeed in life, whether it's business or personal. Everybody fails. There's no other way to learn. Sure, you can learn some things by improving, but at some point you have to have made some failures. So if you have never failed, you're not growing. So for me, if something fails, I failed at something, I know that I grew from that. I learned something from that. I'd rather you say, I failed at this, but I learned what I did wrong or what to do differently. And another goal with a different deadline, that's okay. But don't reset the original. That's just my little piece of advice there about goals. Okay, getting back to summary. Where are we? We're talking about, okay, so effective communication helps us in every aspect of our life, just as most of these things do, in our personal life, in our business life, in our family life, everywhere, to have active listening, to be that person. What does that overlap with? Empathy. It overlaps with resilience. It overlaps with regulation, just with everything. It even overlaps with conflict resolution. So helping to resolve conflicts, by the way, is not just, I think moms know this, moms and dads, it's not just in the business world. How many conflicts do your kids have? If you have more than one kid, there's a lot of conflict resolution going on there. So to up those skills in a way that's non-stressful can't be a bad thing. The adaptability, knowing when to adapt, when to pivot, being flexible. You absolutely want to be flexible. Nothing should be all or nothing. So high emotional intelligence people are definitely more adaptable to change, and they're also open to new ideas. When people give you ideas, you want to be doing that active listening, not saying, no, that won't work. And if you're right, you want to be actively listening. Give the other person the benefit of the doubt always. Believe it or not, it also helps with creativity because emotional intelligence nurtures creativity by encouraging a positive, more open-minded approach to problem solving. So you're creating a new solution to a problem that maybe was really hard to figure out. Your leadership and influence, whether business or personal, definitely upgraded. And you're more effective. You're creating a motivating work culture or family home. Your decision-making, for nothing else, do it for the decision-making, guys. because it's really hard to make a lot of decisions. We make so many decisions every single day. It's important to know how to make these decisions as quickly as possible and not linger on them for so long that either you forget about them or they don't even become a thing anymore. It's important to make good, quick decisions. And that doesn't mean rash. It just means do your research and then make the decision. Don't research it to death. And social awareness, we can't talk enough about social awareness, how important that is, right? In this world today, it aids in our understanding, our perspective, other diverse perspectives and cultures. I'm a big proponent of not walking on eggshells. I do think people are too sensitive today. But even having said that, that doesn't mean I am going to be insensitive to other people's cultures or beliefs. So you've got to be logical. And the only way to do that is to be more emotionally intelligent. And of course, this all enhances our social skills, crucial for everything, networking, building professional relationships, even enhancing our time on the internet and showing our family, our children, how to do this in a healthy way. Okay. So let me give you one little historical insight about this because I jotted this down. Abraham Lincoln, his leadership during the Civil War is often cited as an example of high emotional intelligence for obvious reasons, right? His ability to understand and to manage his own emotions, as well as empathize with others, helped him to navigate one of the most challenging periods in American history. And I think we can all agree on that. There's nobody I know who, when you say Abraham Lincoln, doesn't put a smile on their face. Nobody disagrees or nobody thinks he was like a bad president, right? So just trust that incorporating emotional intelligence into our daily lives can significantly improve our personal, our professional, our whole life experiences, and making it an invaluable skill in today's world is essential to pretty much everything that we do. So I hope that you got a lot out of this little talk here. And please put in the comments any questions, any comments you have, any thoughts that you think I missed, put it in the comments. I read them all and I will try and answer as many as I possibly can. If you want to know more about any of the things I talked about, go in the show notes and click on one of the links there. It will bring you to more in-depth information, resources. I've even linked some books on emotional intelligence that you might be interested in, should you have the desire. And if you just want to know more about me, go to my website. It's dak-life.com, and you'll get all the information on how to reach me and where I am. I'm all over social, and you can find me anywhere. But I really would love for you to invite your friends to take notice of this podcast. It's brand new. So subscribe, make a comment, leave some feedback, share the podcast. And thanks so much. I really appreciate all of you. I will see you next time. That's it, folks. Thanks for joining us on Family, Business, and Beyond. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. Your support helps us reach more people and make a bigger impact. Remember to follow us on social media for more tips, insights, and behind-the-scenes content. And don't forget to check out our online courses and webinars to continue your journey of empowerment and growth. Stay inspired, cast aside the doubt, let your dreams shout. Until next time, keep embracing the joy within and pursuing your passions. This is Debra Kane, signing off.